Court of Appeal made a pronouncement, said Nnamdi Kanu should be released and should never again be detained and should never again be prosecuted on the same charges over which he was kidnapped and forcibly renditioned back to Nigeria. A whole federal government, rather than protect your citizens, your individual citizens, their fundamental rights, which America will do. America will go to any country to go and take one of their citizens. The whole federal government filed a motion on notice to stay execution, which was granted by the same Court of Appeal. The federal government was staying execution of the liberty of its own citizen. On a very topical issue, building bridges for a new Nigeria. The topic suggests, or rather admits of two things: that Nigeria has failed or is a failing nation, and that the present contraption we have is old, decrepit, and not working. So we want to make it new. That is the meaning. And Ozokhome has become a great national platform to achieving this. I want to salute this organization. I'm particularly enthused with your goals. Management, creating effective management for Igbo professionals both at home and abroad, and promoting cooperation, peace, and good neighborliness between Igbos and other ethnic groups in Nigeria through your handshake programs. Handshake across the Niger, handshake across Nigeria. You have done a lot to bring about this your dream. The Igbo man is a special man. He is gregarious. He is effective. He is innovative. He is daring. In fact, it is said if you go to any community, anywhere, not just in Nigeria, but the world, and you do not see an Igbo man, you should begin to run away. That place is not inhabitable. It's of not deterred him from having a common goal. In 1990, I went on a round country trip sponsored by the United States Formation Service, USIST. People like Senator Kairat, Abdulrazak Gwadabe, who were on the trip together. Then they took us to Yakima, the very place Native Americans. So when we went there, they told me that there can't be an Igbo man here. I told them there must be an Igbo man here, because those are the real Native Americans. It's like a village, a settlement. So they use it as a kind of historical, totem for visitors. New York State. Then we went to a restaurant. I told them, we must see an Igbo man here before we leave this place tomorrow. On the table were three men. They were black. And I told them, watch those men. They said, oh yeah, they are black Americans. I said, I don't think so. You watch them. I believe they are Nigerians. Not only Nigerians, I believe they are Igbos. We were still arguing when one of them stood up and said, nah, ebeki neje. So I said, you see what I'm talking about? So the Igbo man believes more in the indissolubility and indivisibility of this country than any other Nigerian. That is why he finds home everywhere he goes to. Go to the Sabon Gari areas of the entire northern part of Nigeria. I have a friend who speaks Igbo, Hausa, Yoruba, Efik, Ibibio, Urobo, English, about 6 to 7 languages. Because that is a melting point for them all. So I see this topic, therefore, as a bridge which is a source, or which is the process of creating, building, which is the process of creating or developing something. The bridge is something that makes it to connect to others, and bridge building, which are activities intended to make relations between two groups or more groups friendlier. This country, we must be careful in talking about its indissolubility and indivisibility. Its coming together itself was almost like an historical mistake. It was on the 8th of January, 1897, when one young lady called Miss Flora Louisa Shaw gave the name Nigeria to her. A British journalist, Niger area, the area around that River Niger. Don't forget that Western powers tried to write history for us by telling us that Mungo Park discovered the River Niger at New Busa, Kainji. Whereas when he came there, he met the natives drinking the water and taking their bath there. Yet he discovered it. That young lady wrote that article on the 8th of January 1897. And she was later to marry the man called Lord Lugard, Lord Frederick Lugard, the man who amalgamated Lagos colony, the southern and northern protectorates, to found what you call Nigeria today on the 1st of January 1914. Since then, Nigeria has been yearning for nationhood. How many of us know that Nigeria was first owned and ruled by a company called Royal Niger Company between 1886 and 1890? And that this company now sold Nigeria to the British government for 865,000 pounds. That's about 735 naira was what your account was sold by the Royal Niger Company to the British government. Before then, Mr. Chairman, sir, I didn't forget Professor Nebo, the incoming president, very cerebral professor we have. Before then, we had city-states, people who were already independent. We had the Oyo Empire, the Kane Bonu Empire, we had the Ife civilization, we had the Benin Empire. Remember the role of the great Oba Ovoramin Ogbaise, who beat the British with bare knuckles in 1897, which led to the British Benin punitive expedition. We had great figures: Nana of Ichekiri, King Jaja of Opobo, Moremi, the Hausa city-states, the Igbo city-states, before Lord Lugard amalgamated us. But without looking into our peculiar nuances. So when Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe in 1952 told Tafawa Ahmadu Bello, the Sardauna of Sokoto, in trying to see how we can cement Nigeria together. I will have written a book about Nigeria not being one because we don't have a single country like you have the British and the Welsh and the Irish in this path to Nigeria freedom. Zik told Ahmadu Bello, let us forget our differences. Ahmadu Bello gave a very poignant and true answer. He said, no, Zik, we cannot forget our differences. You are Igbo, you are a Christian, and you are an Easterner. I am Fulani, I am a Muslim, and I'm a Northerner. We should recognize our differences and then see how we can understand ourselves. That was a beautiful reply. But all of them were worried about the fact that Nigeria was not one country, which I still dare say till today remains the situation. When the first military coup took place in this country, I'm sorry, before I give solutions, I normally like to give background because it is the problem we have. And Peter the Rock will agree with me. Most of the problems we have is that they had even removed history from our syllabus. So we do not know where we are coming from. The Oyibo man made the car, the vehicle, to have a large windscreen in front so that you can see into the future. But he also makes a very little mirror by the side of the window so that you can peer into the past behind to know what is going on. If you don't have a past, you can't have a present. If you don't have a present, you can never dream of a future. So that is why when I speak, many a time, I peer a little into the past so as to see how and why we missed it. On the 15th of January, 1966, a military coup was played out in Nigeria, and it was led by Major Kaduna Chukwuma Ozokhome. Many historical revisionists have since turned around this story, and I've always asked the question, what has the Igbo man done to deserve being profiled and being typified and being regarded as a dot in the cycle? The Igbo man is not a dot in the cycle. Indeed, he is the link that binds the other 373 ethnic groups in Nigeria, going by the 374 given by Professor Onigu Otite. He is the link. He's the erudite, he's the gum. So he's not a dot in a cycle. He's actually the binding force in this country. Because historical revisionists have tried to always call that coup an Igbo coup. It is a lie from the pit of hell. And as a student of history, I dare not say I'm an historian, though I've written up to 5 books on history, because there are historical professors of history. The truth is that of the people who played out the military coup, the Igbos were not the only one. Led by Major Kaduna Ozokhome Chukwuma from Okpanam near Asaba in Delta State. The people mistake the fact that the following were also leaders of the coup to say it was an Igbo coup. Who were the others? The others were Major Emmanuel Ifejuna, Major Chris Anuforo, Major Timothy Onwatuegu, Major Humphrey Chukuka, Major Don Okafo, Captain Ben Bullier, Captain Emmanuel Mubusi, and Captain Ogbu Oji. Because of that, they always say it was the Igbos that led that coup. No, I want to fault this historical profanity. The following were the people who led the coup, apart from the 7 I've just mentioned. Major Adewale Ademoyegun, Yoruba. He wrote the book. He wrote the book, Why We Struck. I've read that book. Captain G. Adeleke, Yoruba. He is the author of the book, The Reluctant Rebel. Lieutenant R. Egbiko, he was of Isan origin. That's the present day Edo State. There was Lieutenant Tijani Kasina, Hausa Fulani. There was Lieutenant O. Olafemiyo, Yoruba. Captain Gipsy Jalo from Bali in the present Taraba State. Captain Swanton Robert from the Middle Belt. Lieutenant Hope Harris Egaga, Urobo, extraction. Lieutenant Dag Waribori, Ijo, Delta State. Second Lieutenant Saleh Dambo, Hausa. And Second Lieutenant John Atom Bera, who was later a military administrator in this country, is of TV extraction, Benue State. So I ask, what has the Igbo man done to say he was the only one, they were the only one who played it? So from today onwards, tell them that is an historical piece of narrative. It is not true. When, after the counter coup and Agui Ronsi, the only Igbo man who had been president of this country, military head of state, between January 1966 and July 1966, that's the only one. The nearest was Dr. Alex Ekweme, who was vice president to Alhaji Aliyu Shehu Usman Shagari. Go on, there was this program what some people have called, some historians have labeled a genocidal attack on the Igbos. And the Igbos cried to Jukunyemegbe, give us guns. Let us fight and defend ourselves. We could have had probably a country without a war if wise counsel had prevailed. But Lieutenant Colonel Yakubu Gowon, the handsome 12 man who was a bachelor before he took over the headship of this country and only married Victoria after he became head of state, they disagreed and said they were going to carry out a police action from the Nsukka axis. That was a piece of historical mistake. That mistake was to turn into a 3-year bloody civil war that took the lives, some people say, of over 3 million Biafrans. And that That was after the failure of the Aburi Accord, when General Ankara had hosted Gowon and Ojukwu in Ghana to find a way as to how to avoid war. By January 15, 1970, the Biafrans decided to surrender to the Nigerian side through General Philip Effiong, who surrendered to General Olusegun Obasanjo, the man who had taken over control of the 3rd Marine Commando from Adekunle, Benjamin Adekunle. Then the 3 R's were promulgated. 3 R's: reconstruction, rehabilitation, and reconciliation. I've always asked the question, because driving here, if you drive to Enugu State from Onitsha, passing through Oba, Orevite, Okija, Ihiala, Uli, Mbudi, Awomama, Owerri, you will see more roadblocks that you can find in the northern part of Nigeria, where Boko Haram and armed banditry reign supreme. So I find these people more in a state of mental and physical siege. So again, I ask the question, what has the Igbo man done? Have they reconciled? One of the 3 R's? Have they been rehabilitated? One of the 3 R's. Have they been reconstructed? One of the 3 R's. I do not know. I do not know whether you know. I have decided to say that whenever we talk about the indivisibility of Nigeria, we must be careful not to overstretch it and overstretch it. The former USSR once thought so. Today, they have broken up into 15 independent states. Some of them are Ukraine, currently at war with Russia, Russia itself, Latvia, Estonia, Lithuania, the one we call the 3 Baltic states, Estonia, Armenia, Kingston, Moldova, Turkmenistan, Azerbaijan, and Georgia. They broke up. Yugoslavia was once one. It broke up into 6 states. India, Pakistan, and Bangladesh used to be one country. Today they are separate. Ask Sudan, which some few years ago broke into Southern Sudan and Sudan. At this moment, as we are talking, we are battling to bring back our people trapped in that Sudan, in a fratricidal war between the same people of the same country. And our own man, the owner of Air Peace, has decided to use his aircraft, and is doing that precisely, Onyema, to airlift Nigerians trapped in that country. Alan Onyema, God bless you. I didn't hear people say, we will not go with Air Peace. The owner is an Igbo man. Chimanda Ngozi Adichie, Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, the first female and black Director General of the World Trade Organization, WTO, and former Managing Director, World Bank Operations. They are doing Nigerians proud and Nigeria proud. I haven't heard anybody say, we don't want to take the glory because they are Igbos. JJ Okocha, Dan Amokachi, Kanu Nwankwo, Michael Obi Uche Okechukwu Vincent Enyema, Christian Chukwu Emmanuel Okala, Onyekachi Apam, Francis Uzoho and Harry Mosu, and many others. They bombed the local and international fields, doing Nigeria and Nigerians proud. I didn't hear anybody say we didn't want the glory because they are Igbos. Chioma Ajua in 1996 took the Olympic gold medal at the Atlanta Olympics. Emmanuel Junior, the man who was also involved in the 1966 military purge, was the first black African to win a gold medal in an international competition, the 1954 Vancouver Olympics. Michael Okpala, alias Power Mike. Richard Ihetu, alias Dick Tiger, former world boxing weight champion. Olaudo Equiano, the man who wrote many treatises that led to the abolition of the 500-year-old slave trade. Chinua Achebe, the man whose novel Things Fall Apart has been transcribed into more than 500 languages and is now rated as one of the 12 novels considered to be the greatest book ever written by Encyclopedia Britannica. They were all of Igbo extraction. I didn't hear anyone say we should not bask in the glory because they are Igbos. Philip Emeagwole is from Onitsha, computer scientist whose seminar was brought about internet revolution and described by CNN as the father of internet. Professor Bab Naji, who pioneered robotic engineering. Professor Chike Obi, world acclaimed mathematician. Professor Gabriel Oyibo, the man who blazed aircraft design and aerodynamics and aeroelasticity. Professor Benoit Boueze, the first African to have LLD, Doctor of Laws, by thesis. Professor Ben Enwonu, the great sculptor. Chief Sir Louis Odumebu Ojukwu, the father of Ikemba, reputed to be the first Nigerian and West African billionaire. They were Igbos. I didn't hear anyone speak about Igbophobia or Igboism. Do you know that the present president of Liberia, Edward James Roye, is said to be an Igbo man? Do you know that the present president of Gabon, Ali Bongo Ondiba, is said to be of Igbo descent, and that he was taken away during the Civil War? So, why then the typification and profiling of the Igbos? I was at the Supreme Court yesterday to defend an Igbo son. Nnamdi Kanu, yes, he founded IPO, Indigenous People of Biafra, in 2012. His goals is to read the Constitution are clear, to give respect to the Igbos, to put them in a respectable position. Then if you don't want to respect us or give us then let us separate peacefully. That's all. IPOP, we saw them, beret wearing, whistle blowing, marching on the streets. They were not violent. I saw them. I followed their tracks. Then, it took Operation Python by the Nigerian Army between 14th and 17th of September 2017, to descend on his home, ancestral home at Afara Ibeku, Umuahi, Abia State. They almost killed him. He escaped by the teeth. He was then enjoying bail, but unprovoked, he was to be killed. He escaped. His first port of call was Israel, and he quickly reported and swore to an affidavit before he went to London. The federal government said he jumped bail. No, sirs, no, ma'am. Nnamdi Kanu did not jump bail. He escaped to save his life. He would have been killed. So the self-determination bid by IPOB, for your information, for those who had always harbored the thought that it is an illegality or an unconstitutionality, it is not true. Self-determination is recognized by Article 20 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, 1948. Articles 10, 11, and 12, and 20 of the African Charter on Human and People's Rights. Articles 1 and 22 of the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, 1976. Articles 3 and 4 of the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People, 2007. So Nnamdi Kanu was brought back. He was abducted in Kenya, blindfolded, tortured, and forcibly brought back on the 27th of June, 2021, after he was kidnapped on the 19th of June. They charged him to court. I went to court. He was charged with 15 counts. I went to the Federal High Court and argued with a preliminary objection that the case had no legs to stand on, that the charges were bad and could not fly legally. The Federal High Court agreed with me and struck out 8 of the 15 counts, remaining 7. I was dissatisfied. I took the battle to the Court of Appeal, Abuja Division, and the Court of Appeal agreed with me and dismissed the remaining 7 counts. Wait for it. Wait for it. The Court of Appeal made a pronouncement. Said Nnamdi Kanu should be released and should never again be detained and should never again be prosecuted on the same charges over which he was kidnapped and forcibly renditioned back to Nigeria. A whole federal government, rather than protect your citizens, your individual citizens, their fundamental rights, which America will do. America will go to any country to go and take one of their citizens. A whole federal government filed a motion on notice to stay execution, which was granted by the same Court of Appeal. The federal government was staying execution of the liberty of its own citizen. So we were at the Supreme Court yesterday to say, this is wrong. Set this man free. Nnamdi Kanu is sick. He's not well. In the DSS gulag, they are increasing his potassium level. He has ear pain. And the DSS doctor has diagnosed that he needs an operation. But they will not allow him independent opinion from his own doctor. This has been going on. And because of that, in order for him not to die, we have told the Supreme Court to do the needful. The case has been adjourned to the 11th of May. But here is calling on President Buhari, please, sir, on my bended knees, you can order the release of Nnamdi Kanu today. You can do it through the Attorney General of the Federation, who has the powers to enter a nolle prosecute, discontinuance of the cases. After all, there's even no case now. It's just being held illegally. Let him go. Let my people go. You don't have to wait for the Supreme Court decision. You don't have to wait to go on May 29. Let Nnamdi Kanu go. So what do we do to bring about this handshake so as not to take too much of your time? Because there are other activities. We should get it right. First, leadership. Like the Asian tigers. Because Professor Chino Achebe told us in his epic, The Trouble with Nigeria. So the trouble with Nigeria is simply and squarely a failure of leadership. The Nigerian problem is the unwillingness or inability of its leaders to rise to the responsibility, to the challenge of personal example, which are the hallmark of true leadership. I want to add the problem of followership, complex ethno-religious composition that divide us, high power distance culture, corruption, which is on steroids, weak institutions, and the fact that we have a state captured by elite buccaneers of power. We do not practice democracy, I have said. A beautiful concept defined on the 19th of November, 1863, by American President Abraham Lincoln. We don't. As government of the people, for the people, and by the people. I have coined and have added to our political lexicons what we practice. Many crazies that we practice, all of them devoid of democracy. We practice electionocracy, 4-year interval rituals by which we go and select or so-called elect our leaders. We practice judocracy, a government where the politicians fight. In fact, the Nigerian courts are the busiest in the world on election petitions. The politicians mess up our democracy, they fight, they go to the court, and the court incubates midwives and give birth to your governor for you or to your president. We practice executocracy, a system of government where the executive is so powerful and so despotic and autocratic that it behaves more like Louis XIV of France, that will stand in front of Parliament imperiously in 1655 to declare l'état, c'est moi, I am the state. We practice legislatocracy, a system which has been exemplified by the 9th National Assembly of yes, 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 Mr. President, like the Agama lizard. Every bill, every request, yes, sir, Mr. President. And when a person comes to be screened for an important national position, say, oh, we know you, Michael Ozokhome. We don't need to screen you. Take a bow. I call them Mr. Take a Bow National Assembly. That's what we also practice, legislatocracy. So I put here some of the things we should do to have this handshake, not just across the Niger, but also across the Benue, imitating the Asian tigers, investment in skills, advancement in technology, engagement of specialized agencies, establishment of pilot projects, involvement of international agencies, adaptation of foreign imported technology, massive investment in infrastructure, manufacturing, proper and prudent management of our natural resources, disciplined, relatively cheap, educated and skilled workforce, targeting high literacy level, formulating and implementing deliberate government policies, strengthening the developments of agriculture, encouraging industrial development, human capital development, developing small and medium scale enterprises, maintenance of political, social, as well as macroeconomic stability, creating a sound financial system, leadership that prioritizes citizens' welfare.